The blizzard howled, clawing at Ashford Manor's frost-rimed windows, sealing 5 souls within its ancient walls. Hercule Poirot, stranded en route to London, sipped tea in the candlelit parlour, his keen eyes scanning his fellow guests. A scream shattered the silence. Eleanor Vance, pale as death, stumbled in, clutching a bloodied shawl. "Lord Ashford, he's dead," she gasped. In the library, Poirot found the nobleman, his throat torn, occult symbols carved into the floor. Was this murder or something unearthly? Chapter 1. The Manor's Chill. Embrace. The blizzard howled like a banshee, its icy claws raking the ancient stone of Ashford Manor, a desolate pile perched on the edge of a snow-choked Yorkshire moor in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot, stranded en route to London after a derailment, halted his train, stood in the Manor's cavernous hall, his polished shoes gleaming incongruously against the frost-dusted floorboards. His host, Lord Reginald Ashford, had offered refuge to the stranded travellers, a gesture Poirot found courteous but tinged with unease. The Manor's Gothic arches and shadowed corridors whispered of secrets, and Poirot's little grey cells, ever alert, sensed a storm beyond the one raging outside. 5 souls were trapped within these walls. Poirot himself, meticulous and observant, Eleanor Vance, a delicate heiress with eyes that darted like a hunted doe, Dr. Julian Carver, a brusque physician whose sharp gaze missed nothing, Clara Henshaw, the Manor's housekeeper, her face etched with years of silent resentment, and Victor Morley, Ashford's estranged nephew, whose sullen demeanour cloaked a simmering anger. The snow had sealed all exits, the telephone lines dead, the nearest village 10 miles through impassable drifts. They were prisoners of the storm, and Poirot, ever the student of human nature, studied his companions with the precision of a watchmaker. The evening had begun civilly enough. Lord Ashford, a robust man in his 50s with a penchant for occult curiosities, welcomed them to the candlelit parlour. His collection of grimoires and talismans lined the shelves, their leather bindings glinting in the firelight. A hobby, he called it, though Clara's tight-lipped glance suggested otherwise. Eleanor, clutching a shawl, spoke little, her fingers twisting a silver locket. Dr. Carver, nursing a brandy, debated medical ethics with Ashford, their voices edged with old rivalry. Victor, slouched in a corner, eyed the group with disdain, his gambling debts a poorly kept secret. Poirot, sipping tea, catalogued their tensions, jealousy, ambition, betrayal, all ingredients for a darker drama. The scream came at 9:30, shattering the parlour's uneasy warmth. Eleanor stumbled through the doorway, her face ashen, her shawl stained with blood. "Lord Ashford, he's dead!" she gasped, collapsing into a chair. Poirot, calm as ever, followed her trembling finger to the library. There, sprawled across an oriental rug, lay Ashford, his throat torn as if by savage claws, his eyes frozen in terror. A pentagram, crudely etched in blood, marred the oak floor beside him. Books lay scattered, a grimoire open to a page of arcane symbols. The windows, locked tight, rattled under the storm's fury. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, his moustache twitching, "this is no accident." The group gathered, their faces a tableau of shock and suspicion. Eleanor, trembling, claimed she'd gone to the library for a book and found Ashford dead. Dr. Carver, kneeling by the body, declared the wounds animal-like, though he admitted no beast could enter through the snow-locked manor. "A wolf, perhaps," he ventured, his tone sceptical. Clara, clutching her apron, whispered of a local curse, a beast summoned by betrayal, haunting the moors. Her eyes darted to the pentagram, her voice barely audible. Victor, pale but defiant, muttered, "Nonsense, someone did this." Poirot noted his clenched fists, the sweat on his brow despite the chill. Poirot's method, observe, question, deduce, took root. He examined the scene with meticulous care, his gloved hands tracing the room's edges. The pentagram's blood was fresh, its lines deliberate. A torn page from the grimoire, its edges singed, lay beneath a chair. Poirot pocketed it, noting its symbols matched those on the floor. The wounds, though savage, bore the precision of a blade, not claws. A letter opener, bloodied but too blunt, rested on a desk, a clumsy red herring perhaps. Footprints in the library's dust, small and precise, suggested a woman's shoe. Eleanor's, Clara's, or another's? Poirot withheld this, letting the group's unease simmer. He questioned Eleanor first, her fragility a possible mask. "Mademoiselle, why seek a book in such a storm?" She stammered. Roscoe, her lover, admitted a secret affair with Ashford, risking scandal if exposed. Her motive, securing his fortune, was clear, especially as Poirot learned Ashford's will, recently changed, favoured her. Victor, disinherited for his debts, glared at her across the room, his motive equally apparent. Dr. Carver, Ashford's rival over a medical patent, had mud on his boots, absent in the snowbound manor. Clara, serving tea, let slip Ashford's cruelty to her family, her voice bitter. Each had reason to wish him dead. Poirot's mind churned. The grimoire page suggested occult knowledge, but Clara's village tales hinted at superstition exploited. The footprints pointed to a woman, yet Victor's anger felt raw. Carver's steady hands could wield a blade with surgical skill. The letter opener, too obvious, screamed distraction. Poirot paced the library, his cane tapping softly. A hidden passage behind a bookcase caught his eye, its hinges oiled, dustless footprints matching those by the body. "Aha," he whispered, "the killer moved unseen." He tested the group, mentioning the passage casually. Clara flinched, Victor's eyes narrowed, Eleanor clutched her locket, and Carver's smirk flickered. Poirot noted a torn glove in the passage, monogrammed VM, Victor Morley. Confronted, Victor claimed he'd lost it weeks ago, but his panic betrayed him. Poirot kept this secret, sowing doubt. As night deepened, the manor groaned under the storm's weight. A creak echoed upstairs, sharp and deliberate. Poirot's gaze lifted to the ceiling, his little grey cells alight. The footprints, the glove, the passage all pointed to a calculated mind. Clara's knowledge of the manor's secrets, her small feat, her grudge, loomed large. Yet Eleanor's forged letters, Poirot found one in her room. Its ink matching the grimoire, suggested guile. Carver's scalpel, clean but sharp, whispered precision. Victor's debts screamed desperation. The group retired, their footsteps heavy with fear. Poirot lingered, the library's shadows pooling around him. The storm howled, masking secrets, but a faint growl, real or staged, echoed beyond the walls. "The truth," Poirot murmured, "hides in the shadows." A thud from the attic broke his reverie. Something heavy had fallen, or been moved. Chapter 2. Whispers of the Past. The blizzard's fury had not relented, its icy grip tightening around Ashford Manor as dawn broke, grey and merciless, over the snow-smothered Yorkshire moors in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot stood in the dining hall, his immaculate suit a stark contrast to the manor's gloom, his moustache quivering as he surveyed the 4 remaining guests. Eleanor Vance, her delicate hands clutching a handkerchief. Dr. Julian Carver, his stern face betraying a flicker of unease. Clara Henshaw, the housekeeper, her eyes shadowed with secrets, and Victor Morley, Ashford's disinherited nephew, whose sullen demeanour masked a restless agitation. The storm had sealed them in, The telephone line's dead, the village unreachable. Lord Reginald Ashford's brutal death in the library, his throat torn, a bloodied pentagram at his side, hung over them like a spectre. And Poirot's little grey cells were ablaze with the puzzle of it all. He gathered the group at the heavy oak table, the chandelier above casting jagged shadows in the candlelight. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice smooth yet commanding, "Lord Ashford's death is no work of a beast, nor of some village curse. A human hand struck, cloaked in this horror to deceive." Eleanor gasped, her locket glinting as she pressed it to her chest. Victor scoffed. "Preposterous! What proof have you?" Clara's lips tightened, her gaze fixed on the floor, while Carver's eyes narrowed, assessing Poirot like a rival surgeon. Poirot produced the torn grimoire page from his pocket, its occult symbols mirroring those etched in blood beside Ashford's body. "This," he said, holding it aloft, "is no coincidence. Someone among us knows its meaning." Clara paled, her fingers twisting her apron. "It's the Moor's curse," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Over the wind's howl. The beast comes for betrayers. The village has known it for centuries." Poirot's eyes gleamed. He dismissed superstition but noted her fear, a crack in her stoic facade. "Mademoiselle Henshaw, you know this manor's secrets. Tell me of this curse." She hesitated, then spoke of a legend, a spectral beast, summoned by betrayal, that haunted Ashford's line. Her eyes darted to the pentagram's memory, her voice trembling. Poirot filed this away. Superstition could be a tool, wielded to obscure truth. He turned to Eleanor, her fragility a study in contrasts. "Mademoiselle Vance, you found the body. Why wander to the library in such a storm?" Her eyes welled with tears. I couldn't sleep. Reginald, Lord Ashford, promised me a book, a rare volume on poetry." Her voice broke, and she admitted, haltingly, to a secret affair with Ashford. "He loved me," she said, clutching her locket. "He spoke of marriage, despite the scandal it would bring." Poirot noted the locket's weight, its silver chain worn but polished. Her motive was clear. Ashford's will, recently altered, named her a primary beneficiary, a fortune that could secure her future but ignite envy. Victor slouched against a chair, snorted, "Marriage! He cut me out for her!" His voice dripped with venom, his hands clenched. Poirot knew of Victor's gambling debts, a motive as old as greed. "Monsieur Morley, your anger is evident. What did you seek last night?" Victor claimed he'd been in his room, drowning his sorrows in whiskey, but his eyes betrayed panic. Poirot's gaze lingered on the mud caked on Victor's boots, curious, for the manor was sealed by snow. Dr. Carver, impatient, adjusted his cufflinks. "This is absurd, Poirot. I was in my room, as I said. The wounds suggest an animal, though I grant it's improbable." Poirot's eyes flicked to Carver's boots, also muddied, though less so. "Doctor, your knowledge of anatomy is precise. Could such wounds be staged?" Carver bristled, his jaw tight. "Possible, but unlikely. Why suspect me?" Poirot smiled thinly, noting Carver's rivalry with Ashford over a medical patent, a dispute that had cost Carver prestige. Clara, serving tea, let slip a detail that sharpened Poirot's focus. "Lord Ashford was cruel," she muttered, her hands trembling as she poured. "He ruined my family years ago, mocked our poverty." Her bitterness was a motive, raw and festering. Poirot recalled the small footprints in the library dust, woman's shoes, precise like Clara's or Eleanor's. He kept this silent, letting suspicion simmer among them. Returning to the library, Poirot re-examined the scene. The bloodied letter opener, too blunt for the wounds, was a clumsy distraction, left to mislead. The pentagram's lines, he noted, were drawn with care, not haste, suggesting a planning. He found a second clue, a singed matchstick near the grimoire page, its sulphur faint but distinct. Someone had burned something, evidence, perhaps. The hidden passage behind the bookcase, discovered the previous night, showed fresh scuff marks, its dustless floor confirming recent use. Poirot traced it to the cellar, where a torn glove lay, monogrammed VM, Victor Morley. He pocketed it, his mind racing. Confronting Victor privately, Poirot held up the glove. "Yours, monsieur." Victor's face drained of colour. "I lost it weeks ago," he stammered, but his eyes darted to the door. Poirot pressed. "Yet it lies in the passage, near the crime." Victor's denial was too quick, his hands shaking. Poirot let him go, sowing doubt. The glove felt staged, too convenient, a red herring to shift blame. Eleanor, meanwhile, produced a letter from Ashford, begging Poirot to believe her innocence. "He wrote this days ago," she said, her voice trembling. Poirot noted its ink matched the grimoire's torn page, fresh and unfaded. "Forged?" He withheld judgment, her tears too practised to trust. Carver, caught polishing his boots in the hall, admitted wandering the manor at night, claiming insomnia. Poirot spotted a scalpel in his medical bag, its blade sharp enough for Ashford's wounds. "A precaution," Carver said, his smirk defiant. Poirot's suspicions deepened. Carver's precision could stage a beast's attack. Clara, ever watchful, lingered near the parlour door, her ears catching every word. Poirot tested her, mentioning the passage's footprints. Her flinch was subtle, but telling. "I clean the manor, monsieur. Nothing more," she said, her voice sharp. Yet her apron held traces of ash, like the matchstick's residue. Poirot's mind churned. The footprints, the glove, the forged letter, the ash, all threads in a tapestry of deceit. As night fell, the manor's candles flickered, casting grotesque shadows. A low growl echoed beyond the walls, or within. The group froze, Eleanor clutching Victor's arm, Carver's hand on his bag, Clara's eyes wide with dread. Poirot's voice cut through the tension. "Fear clouds the mind, mes amis. I shall not be swayed." He noted their reactions, each a clue to their guilt or innocence. The growl, two-timed, felt theatrical, a trick to deepen the terror. Poirot retired to the library, his cane tapping softly. The pentagram's blood had dried, its edges precise. He found a hidden drawer in Ashford's desk, containing a ledger of payments to Carver, bribes, perhaps, for silence over the patent dispute. Another piece of the puzzle. The manor groaned, its timbers protesting the storm. A faint creak came from the hall, deliberate, stealthy. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Someone was moving, unseen. He followed the sound, his steps silent, to the base of the grand staircase. A shadow flitted upstairs, too quick to identify. Poirot ascended, the air growing colder. The storm's howl muffling his approach. At the landing, he found a candle, freshly extinguished, its wax still warm. Nearby, a door to the attic stood ajar, its hinges creaking faintly. Chapter 3. Secrets in the Walls. The blizzard's wrath softened to a mournful wail, but Ashford Manor remained a fortress of ice, its Gothic silhouette looming over the snowbound Yorkshire moors in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot, his keen mind undeterred by the storm's chill, stood in the library where Lord Reginald Ashford had met his gruesome end, throat torn, a bloodied pentagram etched beside him. The manor's 4 remaining guests, Eleanor Vance, Dr. Julian Carver, Clara Henshaw, and Victor Morley, were bound by suspicion, their secrets coiled like serpents in the shadows. Poirot's little grey cells hummed, piecing together the threads of a murder cloaked in supernatural dread. The hidden passage he'd discovered behind the library's bookcase, its hinges oiled and footprints fresh, promised answers. And the attic's creak from the previous night gnawed at his curiosity. Poirot retraced the passage, a narrow tunnel of damp stone winding from the library to the cellar. Its dustless floor confirmed recent use, the small footprints, likely a woman's, matching those near Ashford's body. "Aha!" he murmured, his cane tapping softly. The killer moved unseen but not unnoticed. In the cellar, among crates of wine and forgotten relics, he found a torn glove, monogrammed V.M., Victor Morley. The fabric was frayed, but its placement felt too deliberate, a beacon to shift blame. Poirot pocketed it, his mind alert to the possibility of a frame. The passage's exit led to a concealed latch near Eleanor's room, a detail he filed away. Someone knew the Manor's secrets intimately. Clara, perhaps, with her years of service, or another playing a deeper game. He gathered the group in the parlour, the fire's glow casting their faces in flickering unease. Eleanor clutched her locket, her eyes red from sleeplessness. Carver's stern demeanour hid a restless glance. Clara's hands twisted her apron, her gaze darting to the windows. Victor slouched, his jaw tight, his muddied boots a silent accusation. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice a velvet blade. "The passage behind the bookcase reveals much. Someone used it to reach Lord Ashford, unseen. The question is, who?" Eleanor gasped. Victor's eyes narrowed. Clara stiffened, and Carver's smirk flickered. Poirot withheld the glove's discovery, letting their reactions betray them. He turned to Victor, his tone measured. "Monsieur Morley, your glove lies in the passage. Care to explain?" Victor's face drained of colour, his hands clenching. "I told you. I lost it weeks ago," he snapped, but his voice cracked, his eyes darting to Clara. Poirot noted the panic. A guilty reflex or the fear of a pawn? "Lost, perhaps," Poirot said, "but found too conveniently." He let the accusation hang, observing Victor's sweat-beaded brow. The glove, he suspected, was planted to divert suspicion, but by whom? Clara, hovering near the tea-tray, flinched at Poirot's gaze. "Mademoiselle Henshaw, you know this Manor's hidden ways. Have you entered this passage?" Her lips pursed, her voice sharp. "I clean, monsieur, not skulk. I've no business in such places." Yet her trembling hands betrayed her. Poirot recalled her tale of the Moor's curse, a beast summoned by betrayal, and probed further. "You spoke of Ashford's occult pursuits. What relics did he keep?" Clara hesitated, then admitted Ashford hoarded grimoires and talismans, believing they held power. "He mocked my warnings," she said, "but the Manor feels wrong." Her fear seemed genuine, but Poirot wondered if it masked cunning. Eleanor, tearful, interrupted. "Monsieur Poirot, I swear I'm innocent. Reginald showed me the passage once, for safety, but I never used it." Her voice wavered, her locket glinting as she clutched it. Poirot noted a letter she produced, allegedly from Ashford, promising marriage. Its ink matched the grimoire's torn page, fresh and unfaded, a forgery perhaps. "Mademoiselle," he said, "your love for Ashford is clear, but so is your gain from his will." Eleanor sobbed, her fragility either sincere or a masterful act. The passage's latch near her room deepened his suspicion, yet her fear felt raw. Dr. Carver, polishing his glasses, scoffed. "This is a waste of time, Poirot. I wandered the halls last night, yes, but only for air. I saw nothing." Poirot's eyes flicked to Carver's medical bag, where a scalpel gleamed, its blade sharp enough to mimic a beast's claws. "Doctor, your skill could stage such wounds," Poirot said, his tone probing. Carver's smirk returned, defiant. "You accuse me without proof. I'm a physician, not a butcher." Yet his steady hands, Poirot noted, could wield a blade with surgical precision. The ledger Poirot found in Ashford's desk, detailing payments to Carver, hinted at a darker motive, perhaps blackmail or bribery over their patent dispute. Poirot returned to the library, his mind a whirl of clues. The bloodied letter opener, too blunt for the wounds, was a clumsy red herring, likely placed to mislead. The pentagram's precise lines suggested a steady hand, not panic. A singed matchstick, found earlier, hinted at burned evidence. Poirot examined the grimoire, its torn page describing a ritual to summon a guardian beast. The symbols matched the pentagram, but their theatrical flourish screamed deception. Was the occult angle a distraction, crafted to exploit village superstitions? Clara's knowledge of the manor and her grudge made her a prime suspect, yet Eleanor's forged letter and Carver's scalpel muddied the trail. Victor's glove, too obvious, felt like a trap. He tested the group, mentioning the matchstick casually. Clara's eyes widened, her hand brushing her apron where Poirot had seen ash. "You tended the fire, Mademoiselle Henshaw?" he asked. She nodded too quickly. "Just keeping us warm," she said, but her voice trembled. Victor, pacing, accused Eleanor. "She's playing the victim, Poirot. Her letters are lies." Eleanor flinched, her tears flowing anew. Carver watched silently, his smirk a mask. Poirot's deductions sharpened. The footprints pointed to a woman, but the glove implicated Victor. Someone was orchestrating chaos, weaving red herrings to obscure the truth. As dusk fell, the manor's shadows deepened, the candles guttering in their sconces. Poirot retraced the passage, finding a faint scratch on the cellar wall. A blade's mark, perhaps. The passage's exit near Eleanor's room suggested access, but Clara's intimate knowledge of the manor's layout made her equally plausible. He recalled the attic's creak, unresolved, and resolved to investigate. Ascending the grand staircase, he moved silently, the storm's howl masking his steps. The attic door, ajar, revealed a dusty space cluttered with trunks and relics. A toppled chair lay in the center, its legs splintered as if struck. Nearby, a glint caught his eye. A silver hairpin, delicate like one Eleanor wore. Poirot knelt, examining the hairpin. It was unbent, recently dropped. A clue or another plant. The attic held Ashford's occult collection. Grimoires, talismans, and a dagger, its blade etched with symbols matching the pentagram. Poirot's pulse quickened. The dagger's edge was sharp, capable of Ashford's wounds, unlike the blunt letter opener. "Mon Dieu," he whispered, "the beast is a lie." The chair's fall suggested someone had been here, searching or hiding. Eleanor, Clara, or another. He descended, the hairpin in his pocket, and confronted Eleanor privately. "Mademoiselle, your hairpin lies in the attic. Why?" Her eyes widened, her voice a whisper. I was curious about Reginald's collection. I went last night before he died." Her story faltered, her hands trembling. Poirot noted her fear but doubted her candor. Clara, passing by, overheard and snapped, "She's lying! She wanted his relics!" Eleanor recoiled, her locket falling open to reveal Ashford's portrait, a motif in silver. A sudden thud echoed from the cellar, heavy and deliberate. Poirot led the group downstairs, their footsteps echoing in the cold stone passage. They found a crate toppled, spilling wine bottles, but no one was there. A note, scrawled in fresh ink, lay among the shards, "Leave or die." Its handwriting matched none, but Poirot noted its ink resembled Eleanor's letters. The group's faces paled, their suspicions flaring. Chapter 4. Symbols and Lies. The blizzard's howl had dulled to a mournful whisper, but Ashford Manor remained a prisoner of snow, its Gothic walls steeped in the chill of murder on this bleak Yorkshire moor in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot, his mind a crucible of logic, stood in the attic where the toppled chair and silver hairpin had sparked new questions. Lord Reginald Ashford's death, his throat torn, a bloodied pentagram etched beside him, had cast a pall over the four trapped guests. Eleanor Vance, fragile yet secretive. Dr. Julian Carver, brusque and calculating. Clara Henshaw, the housekeeper with a festering grudge. And Victor Morley, Ashford's disinherited nephew, his anger barely contained. The hidden passage, the monogrammed glove, the forged letter, and now the attic's clues wove a tapestry of deceit, and Poirot's little grey cells burned to unravel it. The attic, lit by a single flickering lantern, held Ashford's occult collection. Grimoires bound in cracked leather, talismans glinting with eerie runes, and a dagger, its blade etched with symbols matching the library's pentagram. Poirot examined the dagger, its edge sharp and stained with a faint rust. Blood, perhaps, cleaned but not erased. Mon Dieu, he murmured, his moustache twitching. No beast struck Lord Ashford. This blade made the wounds, staged to deceive. The chair's splintered legs suggested a struggle, or a hasty search, and the hairpin, Eleanor's, she claimed, hinted at her presence. Was she seeking relics, as she said, or hiding evidence? Poirot pocketed the dagger, its weight a silent accusation. He descended to the parlour, where the group huddled, their faces taut with suspicion. The fire's glow cast grotesque shadows, mirroring their unease. "Mes amis," Poirot announced, his voice cutting through the tension. "The wounds on Lord Ashford were no beast's work. This dagger," he held it aloft, its runes glinting, "is the true weapon, cloaked in occult theatrics." Eleanor gasped, her locket trembling in her hands. Victor's eyes narrowed, his fists clenched. Clara's lips pursed, her gaze fixed on the blade. Carver, adjusting his glasses, smirked faintly. "A bold claim, Poirot. Prove it." Poirot's smile was thin. "The little grey cells, Doctor. See what others miss." He turned to Carver, whose medical expertise made him a prime suspect. "Monsieur, your skill could mimic a beast's attack. Did you study Ashford's collection?" Carver bristled, his voice gruff. "I glanced at his relics, yes, out of curiosity. I'm no occultist." His steady hands, Poirot noted, could wield the dagger with surgical precision. The ledger found in Ashford's desk, detailing payments to Carver, suggested a motive, perhaps blackmail over their patent dispute. "You profited from Ashford's secrets," Poirot pressed, watching Carver's smirk falter. "Consulting fees," Carver snapped, "nothing more." Yet his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Clara, hovering near the door, flinched as Poirot's gaze fell on her. "Mademoiselle Henshaw, you spoke of Ashford's cruelty. Did his relics include this dagger?" She nodded, her voice sharp. "He collected such things, mocked my warnings of curses." Her small feet, Poirot recalled, matched the passage's footprints, and her ash-stained apron linked her to the singed matchstick. "You know the manor's secrets," he said. "Its passages, its relics. Did you use them?" Clara's eyes flashed. "I'm a servant, not a killer." But her trembling hands told another story. Her grudge, Ashford's ruin of her family, burned as a motive, raw and deep. Eleanor, tearful, produced a second letter from Ashford, its ink fresh, promising her his estate. "He loved me," she insisted, her voice breaking. Poirot noted its paper matched the grimoire's torn page, a clue or a plant. "Mademoiselle, your letters are convenient," he said, his tone probing. Eleanor sobbed, her locket falling open to reveal Ashford's portrait. Her inheritance, secured by the will, was a motive as clear as greed, yet her fear seemed genuine. Was she a victim or a mastermind? The passage's latch near her room deepened Poirot's suspicion, but the hairpin's placement felt staged. Victor, pacing, accused Eleanor. "She's lying, Poirot. Those letters are forged to steal my inheritance." His voice dripped with venom, his muddied boots a lingering clue. Poirot recalled the glove, monogrammed VM, found in the passage. Too obvious, a red herring to frame him. "Monsieur Morley, your debts made you desperate," Poirot said. Victor flushed, claiming he'd been drinking alone the night of the murder. But his panic betrayed him. Poirot tested him, mentioning the passage's scuff marks. Victor's eyes darted to Clara, a silent accusation. Was he a pawn or a player? Poirot returned to the library, his cane tapping softly. The pentagram's lines, precise and deliberate, confirmed a calculated mind. The letter opener, blunt and blooded, was a distraction. Its placement too clumsy. A faint scratch on the floor near the passage caught his eye, a blade's mark matching the dagger's edge. Someone had practiced the wounds, perhaps, or marked their path. The grimoire's torn page described a ritual to summon a guardian beast, its symbols theatrical, meant to terrify. Poirot's mind churned. The occult was a ruse, exploiting Clara's village tales to mask a human killer. He questioned Clara privately, noting her ash-stained apron. "You burned something, mademoiselle? A page, perhaps?" Her face paled, her voice sharp. "Just papers in the fire, to keep us warm." Yet her eyes betrayed fear. Poirot recalled her knowledge of the manor's passages, her small feat her grudge. The dagger stored in the attic was within her reach. Was she orchestrating the horror, or was she another victim of deception? Eleanor, meanwhile, lingered in the hall, her locket glinting. Poirot confronted her about the hairpin. "I was curious," she stammered, "about Reginald's collection. I meant no harm." Her story faltered, her tears too quick. Poirot noted the passage's latch near her room, a path to the crime. Yet her fragility, genuine or feigned, clouded his judgment. The letters, forged or not, pointed to her, but the hairpin felt planted, like Victor's glove. Carver, caught inspecting the library shelves, admitted studying Ashford's grimoires. Academic interest, he claimed, his smirk defiant. Poirot spotted a scalpel in his bag, its blade clean but sharp. "A tool for murder, Doctor?" Poirot asked. Carver laughed, but his eyes flickered. The ledger's payments loomed large. Had Ashford bought his silence, or threatened to expose him? Carver's precision made him dangerous, but his arrogance felt too open. Victor, absent during the attic search, was found in the cellar clutching a bottle of Ashford's rare wine. "Celebrating, monsieur?" Poirot asked, his tone sharp. Victor flushed, claiming grief drove him to drink. His muddied boots, Poirot noted, suggested wandering, but the storm locked all exits. Was he scavenging or hiding evidence? The glove's placement nagged at Poirot. Someone wanted Victor blamed. As night deepened, the manor's candles flickered, casting grotesque shadows. A scream pierced the silence, Clara staring at a window in the parlour where a pentagram had been etched in frost, its lines fresh, scratched from inside. "The beast!" she cried, her voice trembling. Poirot examined it, his fingers tracing the glass. The scratches were deliberate, made with a blade, not claws. Someone was stoking fear, deepening the occult ruse. "Fear is a weapon," Poirot said, his voice calm, "and the killer wields it well." He gathered the group, watching their faces. Eleanor clutched her locket, her eyes wide. Victor's hands shook, his gaze accusing Eleanor. Carver's smirk faded, his fingers twitching. Clara's fear seemed real, but her knowledge of the manor made her suspect. The pentagram's timing, Poirot deduced, was meant to distract, to keep the group off balance. Poirot retreated to the library, his mind a whirl of clues. The dagger's stains, the passage's footprints, the forged letter, the etched pentagram, all pointed to a meticulous plan. Clara's grudge and access made her plausible, but Eleanor's letters and hairpin suggested guile. Carver's scalpel and payments hinted at blackmail, while Victor's glove and debts screamed desperation. The attic's chair, toppled deliberately, suggested a search for something hidden, perhaps Ashford's will, or another relic. A faint creak echoed from the hall, deliberate and stealthy. Poirot's eyes narrowed, his cane silent as he moved to investigate. A shadow flitted past the staircase, too quick to identify. He followed, the air growing colder, the storm's whisper masking his steps. At the cellar door, he found a key, glinting under a rug. Clara's, marked with her initials. Chapter 5. Masks of Innocence. The blizzard's fury had waned to a ghostly moan. Yet Ashford Manor remained a frozen prison, its Gothic halls steeped in the dread of murder on this desolate Yorkshire moor in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot, his little grey cells ablaze, stood at the threshold of the cellar door, Clara Henshaw's key glinting in his gloved hand. Lord Reginald Ashford's death, his throat torn, a bloodied pentagram etched beside him, had cast a shadow over the four trapped guests. Eleanor Vance, fragile yet cunning. Dr. Julian Carver, stern and secretive. Clara, the housekeeper with a buried grudge, and Victor Morley, Ashford's disinherited nephew, his desperation palpable. The hidden passage, the monogrammed glove, the forged letter, the attic's dagger. And now the etched pentagram on the parlour window wove a web of deceit. Poirot's logic cut through the occult facade, but the cellar's secrets beckoned. He turned the key, the lock clicking with a hollow echo. The cellar stairs descended into darkness, the air damp and heavy with the scent of mould and wine. Poirot's lantern cast jagged shadows, revealing crates and cobwebs. Near a splintered barrel, he found a blooded cloth, its stains fresh, hidden beneath a sack. "Aha," he murmured, "the killer's haste betrays them." The cloth smelled faintly of ash, linking it to the singed matchstick and Clara's apron. Was she concealing evidence, or was this another plant? Poirot pocketed the cloth, his mind racing. The cellar's proximity to the passage's exit and Eleanor's room tightened the knot of suspicion. He gathered the group in the dining hall, the chandelier's candles flickering like nervous eyes. Eleanor clutched her locket, her face pale. Carver's jaw was set, his medical bag close. Clara's hands twisted her apron, her eyes darting to the shadows. Victor paced, his muddied boots leaving faint tracks. "Mes amis," Poirot declared, holding up the dagger from the attic, its runes glinting. No beast killed Lord Ashford. This blade, staged to mimic claws, reveals a human hand. Eleanor fainted, her collapse too theatrical, Poirot noted. Victor accused Clara, his voice sharp. "She knows every corner of this place," Clara snapped back. "And you'd kill for his gold, you wastrel." Carver remained silent, his smirk a mask. Poirot pressed forward, his voice calm but piercing. "The passage, the footprints, the dagger, all point to a calculated mind, but lies cloud the truth." He revealed the bloodied cloth, watching their faces. Clara's eyes widened, her breath catching. "I cleaned the cellar," she stammered, but saw no such thing. Her denial was too quick, her hands trembling. Poirot recalled her grudge, Ashford's ruin of her family, and her access to the manor's secrets. Yet the cloth's placement felt deliberate, like Victor's glove, suggesting a frame. Eleanor, revived, clutched her letter from Ashford. "He loved me," she insisted, her voice wavering. Poirot noted its ink matched the cellar notes, "Leave or die," found among the wine bottles. "Mademoiselle, your letters are fresh, perhaps forged," he said. Eleanor sobbed, her locket's portrait of Ashford gleaming. Her inheritance motive was clear, but her fear seemed genuine. The passage's latch near her room, Eshdice, and the hairpin in the attic painted her as suspect or victim. Poirot tested her, mentioning the cellar's cloth. Her eyes flickered, but she claimed ignorance. Was she playing the innocent, or was she targeted? Carver, polishing his glasses, scoffed. "You chase shadows, Poirot. My scalpel is clean, my hands steady." Poirot's gaze lingered on the scalpel, sharp enough for the wounds, though spotless. The ledger's payments to Carver, bribes for silence over their patent dispute, loomed large. "Doctor, your rivalry with Ashford was bitter," Poirot said. Carver's smirk faded. "Business, not murder," he snapped, but his fingers twitched. His precision and motive made him dangerous, yet his arrogance felt too open, a possible misdirection. Victor, sullen, accused Eleanor. "She's the liar. Those letters stole my inheritance." His debts, Poirot knew, drove his desperation, but the glove's placement in the passage screamed a setup. "Monsieur Morley, your glove implicates you," Poirot said, watching Victor's panic flare. "Someone planted it," he shouted, his eyes darting to Clara. Poirot noted the mud on his boots, absent in the snow-locked manor. Had he wandered the passages, or was he framed to distract? Poirot returned to the library, his cane tapping softly. The pentagram's lines, precise and theatrical, confirmed a staged crime. The letter opener, blunt and bloodied, was a clumsy red herring, its placement too obvious. The dagger's stains, though faint, matched the wound's depth, unlike the scalpel's pristine edge. Poirot re-examined the passage, finding a faint scratch near the cellar exit, a blade's mark like the dagger's. Someone had practiced, perhaps, or marked their path. The grimoire's torn page, describing a guardian beast, was a deliberate ruse, exploiting Clara's village tales. He searched Ashford's study, its oak desk cluttered with papers. A hidden drawer revealed a revised will, naming Eleanor as primary beneficiary, with Clara's name scratched out. "Mon Dieu," Poirot whispered, "a motive clarified." Clara's grudge deepened. She'd been promised a share, then betrayed. He confronted her privately, holding up the will. "You lost much, mademoiselle." Clara's face hardened, her voice sharp. "He mocked me, took everything, but I didn't kill him." Her trembling hands betrayed her, yet the cloth's placement felt staged, perhaps to shift blame from another. Eleanor, lingering in the hall, overheard. "I didn't know about the will," she cried, her locket glinting. Poirot tested her, mentioning the passage's latch near her room. "Reginald showed it to me for safety," she said, her voice breaking. The hairpin, she claimed, fell during her attic visit. Poirot doubted her, noting the letter's ink matched the cellar note. Was she forging evidence, or was she a pawn in a larger scheme? Carver, caught inspecting the passage's entrance, admitted curiosity. "I wondered how it worked," he said, his smirk defiant. Poirot spotted a vial in his bag. Sedative, perhaps, to subdue a victim. A precaution, Doctor? Poirot asked. Carver laughed, but his eyes flickered. The payments in the ledger suggested blackmail, a motive as potent as greed. Yet his scalpel's cleanliness nagged at Poirot. Was he too careful or innocent? Victor, found polishing his boots, claimed he'd tracked mud from the cellar's damp floor. I was looking for wine, he muttered, his voice sullen. Poirot noted his absence during the attic search, his gloves' convenient placement. Was he scavenging or hiding evidence? The mud, though, suggested movement beyond the manor's dry halls. As night fell, the manor's candles guttered, casting eerie shadows. Poirot gathered the group, sowing doubt. The cloth, the dagger, the will, all point to a killer among us, he said, watching their reactions. Eleanor's tears flowed. Victor's fists clenched. Clara's eyes darted. Carver's smirk held. The air grew thick, the storm's whisper a distant echo. A sudden crash echoed from the kitchen, sharp and jarring. Poirot led the group, their footsteps echoing in the cold stone hall. They found a shattered glass decanter, its shards glinting on the floor. Beside it lay a note, scrawled in the same ink as Eleanor's letters. The beast sees all. The handwriting matched none, but its placement screamed intent. Eleanor gasped, clutching her locket. Victor accused Clara, who snapped back. Carver's eyes narrowed, his hand on his bag. Clara's face paled, her fear real or feigned. Poirot examined the note, its ink fresh, its message theatrical. The killer plays with fear, he said, his voice calm. The crash, he deduced, was deliberate, meant to rattle them. The note's ink linked it to Eleanor, but the cloth's ash pointed to Clara. Carver's vial and Victor's mud muddied the trail. The will's erasure burned in Poirot's mind. Clara's motive was strong, but the orchestration felt too complex for one alone. He retreated to the study, his mind a whirl of clues. The dagger's stains, the passage's footprints, the forged letter, the etched pentagram, the bloodied cloth, all pointed to a meticulous plan. Clara's access and grudge made her plausible, but Eleanor's letters and hairpin suggested guile. Carver's vial and payments hinted at cunning, while Victor's glove and debts screamed desperation. The kitchen's crash, like the attic's chair, suggested a search or a warning. A faint creak came from the hall. Deliberate and stealthy, Poirot's eyes narrowed, his cane silent as he moved to investigate. A shadow flitted past the kitchen door, too quick to identify. He followed, the air colder, the storm's moan masking his steps. At the pantry's edge, he found a dropped handkerchief, monogrammed E.V., Eleanor Vance. Chapter 6. The Breaking Storm. The blizzard's wail had softened to a ghostly sigh, but Ashford Manor remained a fortress of secrets. Its stone walls heavy with the weight of murder on this Yorkshire moor in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot, his little grey cells alight, clutched the monogrammed handkerchief, Eleanor Vance's, found near the pantry after the kitchen's shattering crash. Lord Reginald Ashford's death, his throat torn, a bloodied pentagram etched beside him, had ensnared the four guests. Eleanor, fragile yet suspect, Dr. Julian Carver, stern and calculating, Clara Henshaw, the housekeeper with a bitter grudge, and Victor Morley, Ashford's disinherited nephew, his desperation raw. The passage's footprints, the dagger's stains, the forged letters, and the cellar's bloodied cloth wove a tapestry of deceit. Poirot's logic cut through the occult ruse, but the handkerchief hinted at new layers. He gathered the group in the parlour, the fire's glow casting their faces in flickering dread. Eleanor's eyes were red, her locket trembling. Carver's jaw was set, his medical bag close. Clara's hands twisted her ash-stained apron. Victor paced, his muddied boots leaving faint marks. "Mes amis," Poirot said, his voice a velvet blade. "The passage to Eleanor's room reveals intent. Someone used it to kill or to frame." Victor's face darkened. "She lured him," he shouted, pointing at Eleanor. She sobbed. "Reginald showed me the passage for safety." Poirot noted her tears, genuine or staged, and the handkerchief's monogram. "Mademoiselle, your handkerchief lies in the kitchen. Why?" Her eyes widened. I dropped it earlier, cooking," she stammered, but her voice faltered. Poirot revealed the cellar's bloodied cloth, its ash linking it to Clara. "Mademoiselle Henshaw, you burned evidence, perhaps?" Clara's lips pursed. "I cleaned, nothing more," she snapped, but her trembling hands betrayed her. Her grudge, Ashford's betrayal of her family, and her access to the passage made her suspect. Yet the cloth's placement, like Victor's glove, felt staged. Poirot turned to Carver, whose scalpel, though clean, could mimic the dagger's wounds. "Doctor, your rivalry with Ashford was costly," he said, citing the ledger's payments. Carver's smirk faded. "Business, not blood," he growled, but his fingers twitched. Victor, accused of the glove, shouted, "Someone framed me!" His debts and muddied boots suggested wandering, but the glove's placement screamed misdirection. Poirot's mind churned. The dagger's stains confirmed it as the murder weapon, not Carver's. Scalpel, the pentagram, the forged letters, the etched window, all theatrical, exploiting Clara's village curse. He found a burned grimoire page in the parlour's fireplace, its ashes fresh, linking to Clara's apron. "You tended this fire, mademoiselle?" he asked. Clara nodded too quickly. "Just warmth," she said, her eyes darting. Poirot retraced the passage, finding a faint blood smear near Eleanor's latch, suggesting the killer's path. The handkerchief, dropped in haste, pointed to Eleanor, but its placement felt deliberate, like the glove framing Victor. Clara's knowledge of the manor, its passages, its relics, made her central. Her erased inheritance in Ashford's will burned as a motive. Yet Eleanor's forged letters, matching the cellar note's ink, hinted at guile. Carver's vial of sedative, spotted in his bag, could subdue a victim, while Victor's absence during the attic search nagged at Poirot. He tested the group, mentioning the burned page. Clara flinched. Victor accused Eleanor. Carver watched silently. And Eleanor's tears flowed anew. "The killer weaves fear," Poirot said, "but logic will unmask them." The manor groaned, its timbers protesting the fading storm. A shadow moved in the hall, swift and silent. Poirot followed, his cane muted, the air colder. At the base of the staircase, he found a locked door, its key missing. Under a rug, a glint, Clara's key, dropped in haste. He unlocked the door, revealing a storage room with Ashford's papers. A second will, hidden in a trunk, confirmed Clara's erasure, her motive stark. "The truth emerges," Poirot whispered. He confronted Clara privately. "You lost everything, mademoiselle." Her face hardened. "He deserved it," she hissed, but denied murder. Her fear seemed real, yet her access and ash-stained hands pointed to guilt. As night deepened, the candles flickered, casting eerie shadows. Poirot's trap was forming, an ounce of false clue to force the killer's hand. "The murder weapon lies in the cellar," he told the group, watching their eyes. Clara slipped away, her footsteps quick. Poirot followed silent, catching her retrieving another bloodied cloth from the passage. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, "the noose tightens." Chapter 7. The Trap Set. The blizzard had faded to a ghostly whisper, leaving Ashford Manor steeped in an eerie calm. its stone walls heavy with the chill of murder, on this Yorkshire moor in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot, his little grey cells alight, clutched the bloodied cloth Clara Henshaw had retrieved from the hidden passage, her act betraying her. Lord Reginald Ashford's death, his throat torn, a bloodied pentagram etched beside him, had ensnared the four guests: Eleanor Vance, fragile yet cunning; Dr. Julian Carver, stern and secretive; Clara, the housekeeper with a burning grudge; and Victor Morley, Ashford's disinherited nephew, his desperation raw. The passage's footprints, the dagger's stains, the forged letters, and the erased will wove a web of deceit. Poirot's trap, claiming a false clue about the murder weapon, had lured Clara, but the killer's mask remained elusive. Poirot unlocked the storage room door with Clara's key, revealing dusty trunks and Ashford's papers. A second will, hidden in a locked box, confirmed Clara's erasure as a beneficiary, her inheritance stolen by Ashford's cruelty. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured, a motive as clear as ice. Clara's grudge, her family's ruin at Ashford's hands, burned brighter, her access to the passage and dagger sealing her as a suspect. Yet the bloodied cloth, like Victor's glove and Eleanor's handkerchief, felt staged, a possible frame to cloud the truth. He gathered the group in the dining hall, the chandelier's candles casting their faces in flickering dread. Eleanor clutched her locket, her eyes red. Carver's jaw was set, his medical bag close. Clara's hands trembled, her apron ash-stained. Victor paced, his muddied boots leaving faint marks. "Mes amis," Poirot declared, his voice sharp. "The killer used the passage, the dagger, and fear itself. I have found the true weapon in the cellar, a lie to draw them out." Clara's eyes widened, her breath catching. Victor accused Eleanor. "She's the liar." Eleanor sobbed. "I'm innocent." Carver's smirk held, but his fingers twitched. Poirot confronted Clara, holding up the second will. "You lost everything, mademoiselle. Did you kill for it?" Her face hardened, her voice sharp. "He deserved ruin, not death," she said, but her trembling hands betrayed her. The bloodied cloth, found in her grasp, linked to the ash on her apron and the singed grimoire page. "You burned evidence," Poirot pressed. Clara stammered, "I cleaned, nothing more." Her denial faltered, her fear real or feigned. Eleanor, tearful, produced another letter, its ink matching the cellar notes. "Reginald loved me," she insisted. Poirot noted its freshness, a forgery likely. "Mademoiselle, your letters deceive," he said, watching her sob. Her inheritance motive, tied to the will, was strong, but the handkerchief's placement in the kitchen felt planted. The passage's latch near her room deepened suspicion, yet her fragility muddied the trail. Carver scoffed. "You chase shadows, Poirot." His scalpel, clean but sharp, could mimic the dagger's wounds. And the ledger's payments hinted at blackmail. "Your rivalry was costly, Doctor," Poirot said. Carver's smirk faded. "Business, not murder," he growled. His steady hands and vial of sedative made him dangerous, but his openness suggested a bluff. Victor, accused of the glove, shouted, "I'm framed!" His debts and muddied boots pointed to desperation, but the glove's placement screamed misdirection. "Monsieur, your absence during the attic search is curious," Poirot said. Victor flushed, claiming he sought wine. The mud, though, suggested wandering beyond the manor's dry halls. Poirot's mind churned. The dagger's stains confirmed it as the weapon, not Carver's scalpel. The pentagram, the forged letters, the etched window, all theatrical, exploiting Clara's village curse. The bloodied cloth, found with Clara, was damning, but its placement echoed the glove's frame. He staged another trap, announcing, "The killer's mark lies in the passage's blood smear." Clara slipped away again, her footsteps quick. Poirot followed, silent, catching her retrieving a hidden vial, sedative like carvers from the passage's shadows. "The noose tightens," he whispered. He gathered them again, his voice calm but piercing. "The killer is among us," their fear betrayed by haste. He revealed the vial, watching their faces. Clara froze, her eyes wide. Eleanor's tears flowed, Victor's fists clenched, Carver's smirk vanished. The manor groaned, its timbers settling. A faint creak came from the staircase, deliberate and stealthy. Poirot's eyes narrowed, his trap set. Chapter 8. The Confession. The blizzard's last whispers faded, leaving Ashford Manor cloaked in an oppressive silence. Its Gothic walls heavy with the truth of murder on this Yorkshire moor in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot, his little grey cells triumphant, stood in the dining hall, the bloodied cloth and sedative vial, Clara Henshaw's damning fines, clutched in his gloved hands. Lord Reginald Ashford's death, his throat torn, a bloodied pentagram etched beside him, had trapped 4 guests: Eleanor Vance, fragile yet cunning; Dr. Julian Carver, stern and secretive; Clara, the housekeeper with a burning grudge; and Victor Morley, Ashford's disinherited nephew, his desperation raw. The passage's footprints, the dagger's stains, the forged letters and the erased will had woven a web of deceit. Poirot's trap, claiming a false clue about a blood smear, had caught Clara retrieving evidence, but the killer's mask was about to fall. The chandelier's candles flickered, casting the group's faces in stark relief. Eleanor clutched her locket, her eyes wide. Carver's jaw tightened, his medical bag close. Clara's hands trembled, her apron ash-stained. Victor paced, his boots leaving faint marks. "Mes amis," Poirot declared, his voice steel. "Mademoiselle Clara, you killed Lord Ashford." Clara laughed, a brittle sound, then crumbled, her face crumpling. "He ruined me," she whispered, her voice raw. "He took my family's honour, erased my inheritance. I had to act." She confessed, her words spilling like the storm's snow. Ashford's cruelty, mocking her poverty, cutting her from his will, drove her to plan his death. She used the hidden passage, known from years of service, to reach the library unseen. The dagger, taken from the attic's occult collection, mimicked a beast's claws, its wounds staged to echo the village's curse. The pentagram, etched in blood, was her flourish, meant to terrify. Victor's glove, stolen from his room, was planted to frame him. The forged letters, mimicking Eleanor's hand, shifted blame to her inheritance. The etched window's pentagram and cellar note, "Leave or die," kept fear alive, masking her human hand. "The cloth, the vial," Poirot said, holding them aloft. "You hid them, but not from me." Clara's eyes flashed. "I burnt pages, used sedative to calm him first," she admitted, her voice breaking. "But you trapped me." Poirot nodded, his moustache twitching. "Your haste betrayed you, mademoiselle. The ash on your apron, the footprints in the passage, your small shoes, sealed your guilt." Eleanor's tears fell, her innocence proven. "I loved him," she whispered, her locket glinting. The forged letters, Clara's work, had exploited her affair. Carver, his smirk gone, admitted his rivalry, but no crime. "I took his money, not his life," he said. The ledger's payments explained as bribes for silence over their patent dispute. Victor, shaken, vowed reform, his glove a red herring. "I'm no killer," he muttered, his debts a motive Clara exploited. Clara lunged for a knife on the table, her desperation wild. Poirot, anticipating, had locked it in a drawer. She collapsed sobbing, her strength spent. "He deserved it," she gasped, but her defiance faded. Poirot's trap, the false blood smear, had forced her hand, her retrieval of the cloth and vial, her undoing. The little grey cells, Poirot said, see through fear's mask. The Manor's shadows deepened, the candles guttering. Poirot bound Clara with Victor's help, her wrists limp. Eleanor, trembling, thanked Poirot, her fragility real. Carver offered his bag's bandages, his arrogance softened. Victor, humbled, swore to honour Ashford's memory. The passage's footprints, the dagger's stains, the forged letters, all threads Poirot had unravelled. The pentagram, the etched window, the cellar note, Clara's theatrics, rooted in village lore, had failed against his logic. A distant rumble broke the silence, a snowplough from the village, piercing the storm's last veil. Help was near, but the Manor's chill lingered. Poirot outlined the case, Clara's motive, her access, her staged beast. "Logic! Always logic," he murmured, his cane tapping softly. The group prepared to hand Clara over, her fate sealed in the snow's fading grip. As they waited, a faint creak echoed from the hall, a final echo of the Manor's secrets. Poirot's eyes narrowed, his mind alert. Had Clara acted alone, or did another shadow linger? Chapter 9. The Storm's End. The blizzard's final sighs faded, and dawn broke over Ashford Manor, its golden light piercing the snow-laden windows, casting long shadows across the Yorkshire moor in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot, his little grey cells triumphant, stood in the iced parlour, where Clara Henshaw, the confessed killer of Lord Reginald Ashford, sat bound with a cord, her defiance withered. The four guests, Eleanor Vance, fragile yet relieved, Dr. Julian Carver, stern but subdued, Clara, her grudge exposed, and Victor Morley, Ashford's humbled nephew, awaited the villagers' arrival. Ashford's death, his throat torn, a bloodied pentagram etched beside him, had been unravelled by Poirot's logic, revealing Clara's staged beast, forged letters, and hidden passage. The dagger's stains, the bloodied cloth, and the erased will had sealed her guilt, but the Manor's eerie calm held one last question. Poirot surveyed the group, their faces etched with exhaustion. Eleanor clutched her locket, its silver glinting with Ashford's portrait. Carver's medical bag rested at his side, his arrogance softened. Victor's muddied boots, now cleaned, spoke of his reform. Clara's eyes, once sharp, stared blankly at the floor, her confession, driven by Ashford's cruelty and her lost inheritance, still echoing. "Mes amis," Poirot said, his voice calm, "the truth is laid bare. Mademoiselle Clara used the passage, the dagger, and the village's curse to mask her crime." He recounted the clues, the small footprints, her ash-stained apron, the sedative vial, and the forged letters framing Eleanor. The pentagram, the etched window, Victor's glove, all were Clara's theatrics, undone by logic. Eleanor, trembling, thanked Poirot, her voice soft. "I thought I'd lose everything," she said, her innocence proven. The forged letters, Clara's work, had exploited her affair with Ashford, whose will named her beneficiary. "I'll sell this manor," she vowed, "and leave its shadows." Poirot nodded, noting her resolve, though her fragility lingered. The hairpin in the attic, likely planted by Clara, had been a red herring, like Victor's glove. Carver, his smirk gone, offered bandages from his bag to secure Clara's bonds. "I took his money, not his life," he admitted, explaining the ledger's payments as bribes for silence over their patent dispute. His scalpel, clean but sharp, had been a distraction, not the weapon. "You've cleared my name, Poirot," he said, his voice gruff but grateful. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Carver's rivalry, though potent, lacked the malice of murder. Victor shaken swore to reform. "I was a fool," he muttered. his gambling debts a motive Clara exploited with the glove. The mud on his boots from cellar wanderings had fueled suspicion, but Poirot's trap had cleared him. "I'll honour my uncle's memory," he said, inheriting the estate Clara sought to steal. Poirot noted his sincerity, a flicker of redemption in his sullen eyes. Clara, bound and silent, offered no resistance. Her confession had laid bare her plan. The dagger from the attic, used to mimic a beast, the passage known from years of service, the pentagram and notes stoking fear. "Mocked my family's ruin," she whispered, her voice hollow. Poirot's trap, the false blood smear, had forced her to retrieve the cloth and vial sealing her fate. "The little grey cells," Poirot said, stroking his moustache, "never fail." A distant rumble broke the silence, a snowplough from the village carving through the drifts. The group stirred, relief mingling with dread. Poirot prepared to hand Clara over, outlining her crime. The sedative to subdue Ashford, the dagger's precise wounds, the occult ruse to exploit superstition. "Logic, always logic," he murmured, his cane tapping softly. The manor's shadows seemed to retreat, its secrets exposed. As they waited, Poirot retraced the case in his mind. The passage's footprints, small and precise, matched Clara's shoes. The dagger's stains, unlike Carver's clean scalpel, confirmed the weapon. The forged letters in Eleanor's name used ink from Ashford's desk. The bloodied cloth, the vial, the etched pentagram, all Clara's, orchestrated to frame others. The attic's chair, toppled in her search for the will, had been her misstep. Victor's glove, Eleanor's handkerchief, red herrings to cloud the truth. The snowplow's rumble grew louder, its lights glinting through the windows. Villagers, bundled against the cold, arrived with a constable, their faces sceptical. Clara's head bowed as Poirot explained. She staged a beast's attack, using the manor's secrets and village law. The constable nodded, binding Clara's hands tighter. Eleanor, Carver, and Victor stood aside, their motives cleared, their futures uncertain. The manor stood silent, its Gothic arches bathed in dawn's light. Poirot's work was done, his reputation intact. Yet a faint creak from the hall lingered in his mind. A ghost of doubt, or the manor's settling bones. He dismissed it, his logic unshaken. "The truth," he murmured, "is its own light." Chapter 10. The Light of Reason. The dawn's golden rays pierced Ashford Manor's frost-rimed windows, bathing its Gothic halls in a fragile light that dispelled the shadows of murder on this Yorkshire moor in the winter of 1925. Hercule Poirot, his little grey cells victorious, stood in the grand hall as the village constable led Clara Henshaw away, her wrists bound, her face a mask of defeat. Lord Reginald Ashford's death, his throat torn, a bloodied pentagram etched beside him, had been unravelled by Poirot's relentless logic, exposing Clara's staged beast, forged letters, and hidden passage. The four guests, Eleanor Vance, now relieved, Dr. Julian Carver subdued, Clara, the confessed killer, and Victor Morley, humbled, faced a new day, their secrets laid bare. The manor's eerie creak, a lingering echo, tested Poirot's certainty, but his truth held firm. The constable, a burly man with a weathered face, listened as Poirot recounted the case, his Belgian accent precise. "Mademoiselle Clara used the dagger from Ashford's occult collection," he explained, "staging a beast's attack to exploit village superstition." He detailed the clues. The small footprints in the passage, matching Clara's shoes. The dagger's stains, confirming the weapon. The bloodied cloth and sedative vial, hidden to cover her tracks. The forged letters, mimicking Eleanor's hand to frame her. and the etched pentagram on the window. A theatrical flourish. The second will, erasing Clara's inheritance, had fueled her grudge. Ashford's cruelty to her family, the final spark. The human heart, Poirot said, his moustache twitching, is the true monster. The villagers, huddled outside, whispered of the Moor's curse, their eyes sceptical. "A beast, they say," the constable muttered. Poirot's voice cut through, calm but firm. "No beast, monsieur. Clara's logic, twisted by revenge, crafted this horror." He pointed to the passage's latch, the attic's dagger, the ash on Clara's apron, evidence no myth could refute. The constable nodded, convinced as Clara was loaded into a sleigh, her silence damning. The villagers' murmurs faded, their fears yielding to reason's light. Eleanor, clutching her locket, approached Poirot, her voice soft. "I owe you my life, monsieur. Those letters, I thought I'd be blamed." Her innocence, proven by Clara's confession, freed her from suspicion. The hairpin in the attic, Victor's glove in the passage, red herrings Clara planted to mislead. "I'll sell this manor," Eleanor said, her eyes resolute. "Its shadows hold too much pain." Poirot nodded, noting her strength beneath fragility. Her inheritance, secured by Ashford's will, would fund a new start, far from the moor's chill. Dr. Carver, his arrogance softened, offered a curt nod. "You cleared my name, Poirot," he said, his voice gruff. The ledger's payments, bribes for silence over a patent dispute, had cast suspicion, but his clean scalpel proved no match for the dagger's stains. "I'll return to London," he added, his medical bag slung over his shoulder. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Carver's rivalry, though bitter, lacked the malice of murder. His steady hands, once suspect, now promised aid to the village. Victor, his sullen demeanour gone, stood humbled. "I was a fool," he admitted, his gambling debts a motive Clara exploited. The mud on his boots from cellar wanderings had fueled suspicion, but the glove's placement was her frame. "I'll honour my uncle's estate," he vowed, inheriting what Clara sought to steal. Poirot noted his sincerity, a spark of redemption in his eyes. The manor, now his, would test his resolve. Poirot retraced the case in his mind, ensuring no thread escaped. The passage's footprints, Clara's small shoes, the dagger's runes matching the pentagram. The forged letters using Ashford's ink, the bloodied cloth hidden in haste, the vial to subdue her victim, all Clara's. The attic's toppled chair, her search for the will, the etched window, her fear-mongering ruse. Victor's glove, Eleanor's handkerchief, deceptions to cloud the truth. The creak in the hall, a settling timber, held no further secrets. "Logic, always logic," Poirot murmured, his cane tapping softly. The sleigh's bells jingled as Clara was taken away, the snowplow's path clearing the moor's isolation. The villagers dispersed, their beastly myth dispelled. Eleanor packed her few belongings, her locket a reminder of love lost. Carver offered medical aid to the village, his bag ready. Victor surveyed the manor, its Gothic arches now his burden. Poirot, his work done, prepared for London, his reputation as the master of deduction intact. The manor stood silent, its secrets buried in the melting snow. Poirot boarded a sleigh, the moor sparkling under sunlight. The little grey cells, he mused, shine where shadows fall. As the sleigh glided away, a final glance at the manor stirred no doubt. Clara's guilt was certain, the case closed. Yet the moor's vastness, stretching beyond, whispered of mysteries yet to come.